The sinister truth behind the Bell Witch curse. They said a witch's voice could haunt a house, but what if the real curse was the truth no one dared to speak? Tonight we return to a farmhouse in 1817 Tennessee, where prayers were answered with laughter in the dark and a family's secrets learned to whisper back. If you love dark folklore, hidden histories, and the meanings buried inside American legends, subscribe now, leave a like, and tell us in the comments which tale we should unmask next. Your suggestion might become our next investigation. This is not a simple ghost story. It is a trail of debts and denials, a town that needed a monster, and a girl who learned that silence can be louder than screams. We'll follow the legend everyone knows, then turn the lantern toward the records they forgot and the motives they refused to see. Along the way, we'll ask a harder question: when a voice calls from the walls, whose breath carries it? Listen closely. The wind over the Red River still knows a name, and tonight it will lead us to the room where the last bottle ran dry, the candles trembled, and John Bell's hands started to shake. John Bell's hand trembled as he reached for his medicine, the glass bottle glinting in the dim light. But when he lifted it, it was empty. A slow whisper curled through the room, a woman's laughter, soft, cruel, and close. His eyes darted to the corner, where shadows moved like smoke. Moments later, his family found him on the floor, lifeless, his face frozen in terror. They said the witch had come for him at last. In Adams, Tennessee, the story would live forever, the night the Bell Witch claimed her final soul. It hadn't started with death, but with whispers. In 1817, John Bell's fields turned restless. Horses refused to move. Crops failed overnight. And inside the wooden house, the nights grew longer. His daughter Betsy heard scratching under her bed, then voices calling her name. When she screamed, the sound came from the walls themselves, mocking, mimicking. "Who's there?" John demanded. The reply was faint but sharp as ice: "A witch, come to punish you." From that moment, the family knew they were not alone. The haunting escalated. Invisible hands pulled sheets from sleeping children, slammed doors, and laughed when prayers were spoken. Neighbors began visiting to witness it themselves. Some heard hymns sung backwards, others claimed the entity could speak scripture word for word, then twist it into blasphemy. "In the name of the Lord, tell us who you are," cried John's wife, Lucy. The voice replied, mocking her faith, "I am all that you fear." The house trembled, the candles died, and the family fell to their knees. News spread across the county. Preachers, soldiers, skeptics, all came to hear the spirit speak. What terrified them most wasn't the violence, but the intelligence. The witch seemed to know everything: private confessions, hidden sins, secrets whispered miles away. When Lucy Bell fell ill, the voice brought her medicine. When John cursed aloud, it answered, "Your words poison faster than mine." To some, the Bell Witch was a demon. To others, she was justice made flesh. No one could agree, but everyone was afraid. Months turned to years, and still the voice haunted the Bells. Betsy grew pale and quiet, her eyes hollow from sleepless nights. The witch now spoke only to her, calling her child, singing lullabies that chilled the blood. "Why us?" Betsy once asked. The answer floated from nowhere, yet everywhere: "Because he knows what he did." John Bell's face went white, and for the first time, the fearless patriarch said nothing. They called her a witch, but no one ever saw her face. In 1817, Adams, Tennessee, was a place of prayer, superstition, and quiet judgment. The Bells were respected, even feared, a family of means and reputation. But beneath the hymns and Sunday smiles, resentment grew. Land disputes, whispered debts, and one name repeated like a curse: Kate Batts. She was a widow, outspoken, and strange by the standards of her time. They said she spoke to herself in fields, laughed at funerals, and carried the devil's favor. But the truth was simpler: she had been wronged, and she refused to stay silent. Kate Batts and John Bell had once been friends, tied by land and promise. But when he cheated her in a sale, the town took his side. A woman's word meant nothing in Tennessee law. In anger, she swore justice before witnesses, her eyes burning with something between grief and fire. He will pay, she said, and his house will hear my voice. Within months, strange things began at the Bell home. Some said Kate had cursed him. Others whispered he had cursed himself. Either way, the whispers spread faster than the truth. The church condemned her. Neighbors crossed the road to avoid her door. Men spat at her name. Yet, when the haunting began, it wasn't Kate they saw, it was her legend. Fear gave her power long after her body fell ill. Letters from the time reveal something eerie, the haunting intensified the moment Kate Batts was bedridden. Some swore they heard her voice from miles away, cursing John Bell from her sickbed. But when she finally died, the voice didn't die with her, it grew louder. It was as if the community itself had breathed life into the curse. Every fear, every sin, every lie needed a scapegoat, and Kate became the vessel. The more they spoke her name, the stronger the witch became. Some said they heard her laugh at the funeral. Others claimed her shadow stood behind the preacher as he read her eulogy. But the strangest thing was the silence afterward. The Bell house grew still, almost calm, as if the ghost had gone to rest. Until one night, a new voice spoke, and this one sounded nothing like Kate. Betsy Bell woke to her own name whispered from the dark. The tone was softer, younger, and filled with sorrow. "Don't be afraid," it said. "It's not over yet." Betsy screamed for her father, but when he rushed in, the air turned cold. A familiar sound, the same whisper that had once been Kate's, echoed from the walls. "She's gone," the voice said, "but I'm not." The Bell witch had survived her creator. And this time, she wasn't coming from the woods or the fields, but from inside the house. The voice changed after Kate's death. It was no longer vengeful, but sorrowful, almost human. Betsy Bell began to hear it at night, whispering her name like a lullaby from under the floorboards. "You can't tell them," it said. "They'll never believe you." At first, she thought it was a dream. Then came the scratches, the cold breath against her neck, the feeling of eyes watching her from the darkness. The witch was gone, they said, but Betsy knew something still moved within the walls of her home. John Bell grew restless. He stopped eating, stopped praying. He accused the neighbors of witchcraft, then his own sons. "She's among us," he shouted, "and she knows what I did." His wife begged him to rest, but he wouldn't listen. Betsy saw the fear in his eyes, the same fear that once drove him to accuse Kate Batts. The voice mocked him now, repeating his own words with venom. "What did you do, John?" it whispered. "What did you do to her?" Each night, the question came closer, until he began to answer it in his sleep. Neighbors reported screams echoing across the fields. Betsy's brothers swore they saw her speaking to shadows, her lips moving in prayer, or in mimicry. Some claimed the witch had taken her voice, others that she had become the witch herself. One night, she awoke to find her father standing over her bed, eyes vacant, holding a vial of cloudy liquid. "For the pain," he said, but the voice behind him laughed. "For yours, or hers?" When morning came, Betsy couldn't remember if she had dreamed it, or if the glass bottle was really there. The haunting climaxed in December of 1820. John Bell was found dead beside his medicine bottle. The liquid inside smelled wrong, sour and sweet at once. When the doctor examined it, the spirit spoke before anyone else could. "I gave him his dose," it said. "He'll never hurt again." The voice then laughed, a deep, shaking laughter that filled every corner of the house. Was it the witch, people asked. No one knew. But that day, the Bell witch vanished forever, or so they believed. The Bell family buried John in silence. Betsy stood apart, her eyes fixed on the empty field beyond the graveyard. The wind moved through the grass, carrying a sound only she could hear, her own name, whispered softly, almost lovingly. "It's over," her mother said. Betsy shook her head. No, she whispered, it's just beginning. Behind her, in the shadow of the trees, something moved, something that breathed when the wind did not. Years passed, but the story of the bell which refused to die. Some said it was because the evil was never buried, that the spirit found new hosts in every generation that lied, cheated, or silenced the weak. Others believed the haunting had ended the moment John Bell took his last breath. Yet the deeper truth was quieter, more human. The witch was not a ghost at all, but a mirror held up to those who feared being seen. The curse had not hunted them, it had revealed them. Betsy Bell grew into a woman shadowed by whispers. No one would marry her, no one wanted the witch's bride. But in her letters, she wrote of something more haunting than spirits, she spoke of memory. I still hear her voice, she confessed. Not from the woods, but from within me. Perhaps the bell which was never Kate, never demon or angel. Perhaps she was Betsy's mind crying out for justice in a world that punished truth. The voice that once tormented her may have been the only thing that ever protected her. Over time, preachers and storytellers twisted the tale into moral warning. The witch became sin, Betsy became temptation, John became victim. But the truth does not bend forever, it bleeds through, even centuries later. The Bell Witch legend was born from fear of women who spoke too loud, from guilt of men who thought silence meant safety. Each retelling cleansed the bells of blame, yet the shadow always returned. Because guilt has no grave, it only changes shape. And so, the haunting survived without footsteps, without screams. It lived in every whisper about crazy women and false accusers, in every town that mocked the one who told the truth. The witch's curse was not death, it was remembrance. Every lie that tried to erase her only fed her power. Fear became faith, silence became ritual. And still, people prayed not to her, but against her, never realizing she had been praying for them all along. The witch was not a monster in the dark. She was the light no one wanted to face. The Bell Witch was a mirror polished by pain, reflecting the sins of a world that called its victims possessed. And every time someone tells her story, every Halloween that stirs her name, that mirror turns once more, waiting, patient, and unbroken. Because she was never a ghost. She was a memory that refused to die. The ruins of the Bell Farm lie quiet now, swallowed by vines and memory. Travelers say you can still hear footsteps on the old road, or the creak of a door that no longer stands. A single oak tree remains, older than the legend itself, its roots curling like fingers around the forgotten well. Locals avoid it after dusk. They say if you whisper your sins into the hollow trunk, you'll hear a woman's laughter on the wind, a laugh that isn't cruel anymore, only knowing. A historian once recorded strange voices near the site, faint, melodic, like distant humming. When played backward, the words became clear, truth never dies. Some dismissed it as trick of sound, but others claimed it was her. Not the witch, but the voice of the truth itself, the same whisper that once called Betsy's name. Every October, the town grows restless. The air feels heavier. Dogs bark at nothing. And when the wind shifts over the river, someone always says the same thing, she's back. But what if she never left? What if the Bell Witch was never meant to vanish? Some ghosts haunt because they were wronged. Others stay because they have more to teach. Perhaps her curse was not vengeance, but remembrance, a way to keep the truth alive long after everyone stopped listening. Every lie told in her name, every denial of guilt, only fed her strength. Because silence, like fear, is just another form of worship. Today, tourists visit the Bell Witch Cave, snapping photos where screams once echoed. Most laugh, some shiver, but a few leave with the same uneasy question in their hearts, what if she wasn't a witch at all? The air there smells of damp earth and ash. Deep inside, carved into the stone, someone once wrote, justice never sleeps. No one knows who left it, or when, but every guide lowers their voice when reading it aloud. The cave hums back, low and steady, as if agreeing. The legend of the bell which endures because it never belonged to the past. It was a story about guilt, truth, and the price of silence, and that story still belongs to us. So when the wind rises this Halloween, and a cold breath grazes your neck, don't ask who it is. Ask what truth you've buried. Because maybe the bell which never left at all. Maybe she's been waiting for you to listen. If this story left you thinking, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, so you don't miss the next revelation hidden in America's forgotten legends. Your support helps us uncover more tales buried between history and fear. More stories like this are on their way, and the next one might change how you see the world.